Recording in progress.
Everyone's ready? Yes, sir. Okay, can we call this meeting to order at 6:03? Is this Ball? Can you take roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Bilbrough. Here. Councilmember Higgs.
Here.
Councilmember Love.
Here.
Councilmember McCarthy.
Here.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Mayor Porter.
Here.
Councilmember Scott had requested to be excused from the meeting tonight.
I don't have a problem if the other council members are. Okay, so she's excused.
Okay. And Council President Raynor.
Here. Invocation. Oh, Mrs. Higgs, can we, could you do invocation, please?
That's great. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for your grace and your mercy, Lord. Continue to shine upon us in your secret place and be with us as we deliberate throughout this meeting, Lord, that we do things that's decent and in order and pleasing to your will. Holy Spirit, your way. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is presentation.
Approval.
Approval of agenda. Read too fast. Thank you. Approved by Ms. Love, second by Ms. Higgs. Any questions? Yes.
I don't have any questions in specific, but I know the agenda is pretty much well set. But hopefully, if you will be allowed, okay, when I do give my report, there's something that's kind of a matter that could have some urgency to it, and it could mean some finance to the city. So I'd like to, because it's a work session, I'd like to have the opportunity to at least discuss it.
You want to move it up? Is it like on the agenda?
I don't believe that it's on the agenda, I did not see it, okay? And I don't know if it's gonna be, if it's not in, would that, what I sent you, would it be on in your report? Yes. Okay, I understand that. It was just something that went, and I'm asking permission to, if we come in to have a discussion, at least to discuss it, because it could mean funding to us. I'd like the council at least talk about it so they can determine whether or not they can approve it. This just came into me today, okay?
I have no problem with the,
Why don't we bring it up during citizen comments?
Citizen comments?
Are you not
Okay.
a citizen?
I am,
Any-
sir, but that's
I think that's a great time.
fine,
You
fine.
can
If that be the case, that'll be all right. I
can
just
do-
wanted to put it,
you can do it during this
may
report.
have discussion, okay?
Is your report lengthy?
No, it's
I
not,
don't-
that's not.
You can do it during your report.
That's fine, that's fine. Thank you.
So he can do it during his report. Any other questions? Mrs. Ball?
Online voting has been open. Agenda has been unanimously approved by the city council.
Thank everyone. Now, the famous Mr. Todd Pounds. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. My name is Todd Pounds, and I'm from the law offices of Alexander and Cleaver, and I work with Jason Deloach, and we are very proud to be that handles the annexation matters, and so that's the reason I was asked to come here. And I've handled annexation matters on behalf of the city in the past, and so I was contacted to represent you first to discuss and then to determine and to move forward with regard to future plans for annexation. So if any time, obviously, if you have any questions, let me know. But I have met with the city and to determine a strategy as to what we're going to be doing with the next phase of the annexation plan. And this would be phases 6 and 7. And those would be the next 2 steps for, annexation to bring those areas into the city for also future use, and also for the idea as to how the annexation would be applied in the future. So we are in the process of beginning that process. There are the 2 parts of any annexation that are most time consuming is number 1 is to get the meets and bounds survey done to determine exactly the area that's going to be brought into the city with regard to any annexation. Fortunately, that has already been done. That was done, and so that is definitely going to speed up the process. And then the number 2 is the notice requirements that are required to be given to various citizens. But since this is governmental entities or WMATA, really those notice requirements don't apply either. So this process should be faster and more streamlined than what a normal annexation process is. Pursuant to our previous meeting, I did have begun preliminarily the process, at least moving forward. And in essence, this is going to be 2 annexations. Number 1 is to have one area, and number 2 is to have another area. The first area is to be the WMATA and the high school. The other one is to be the fire department. There's a very specific reason why. I don't want to tell you, and if you want to, I can tell you that in a closed session, but it's something that I'd be more than happy to supply that to you, but it's one of these things where I think it's important legally that the 2 would be running parallel, and that's the way we're going to proceed, and really the city agrees with that strategy. So, so basically, that's where we're moving forward on that. Like I said, there's going to be 2 annexations, numbers 6 and 7. We're going to be moving together, with the 2 running in parallel. So I'm here to answer any other questions.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you guys last month giving myself and Ms. Ball the opportunity to kind of organize this, because there was some questions. So we were able to meet and figure some things out. I know that last month we talked about the public safety implications. That was a question that was brought up by the council. We did have the acting chief pull some numbers just to verify where we were and any negative impact it would have on the city. After reviewing it, we've determined that it necessarily would not have a negative impact because it's not any of the residential areas, things like that, and our police department would not take over as the primary responsibilities in any of those areas. The school, for example, would stay in the jurisdiction of Prince George's County, and the WMATA would stay under the jurisdiction of Metro Transit, who would be the primary law enforcement to respond there. I think that it's part of the phase process that was already introduced some time ago, when we even talking to Todd. So I do appreciate you coming in and talking to us about it. And I'm sure him or the acting chief can give more details on it. When it was introduced last month, just tabling it was the opportunity just to make sure that we had the necessary information for the clerk to make sure that we were following the legal requirements. And then as the new city manager, I wanted to make sure I had the opportunity to really understand what was being asked or what we were doing. But after reviewing it, I am comfortable with it. There may be some questions that we probably would discuss in closed session if we needed to, but for where we are, I think it's the next best move for us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pounds. I'm just curious, what type of timeline on an ideal situation would we be looking at should we decide to move in that direction?
Ideal with government. So, and as you can tell, I've been representing governments for, over 25 years, but let me put it this way. Generally if this was a normal annexation, and I'm asked that question, what that timeline would be. On a normal annexation, if it ran perfectly with the timelines and everything was absolutely perfect, I would say always budget for 9 months. Okay, because primarily one of the biggest problems is the notice requirements, the notice as they're going through. But here, those notice requirements are going to be softened up because of the fact that, we have WMATA, we have the, county involved, and they do not require those same notice requirements. So I would say ideal ballpark, and one of these things where for annexation processes, just to let you know, they become very difficult to actually have during a council meeting. So many times I request that we have a special meeting with the notice requirements just to get that through because it's very unique and it's something that doesn't happen very often. So it does become easier than having on a normal council meeting. That would be my request, and we can talk about that later. But if you want me to give you a solid ballpark, I would try to definitely get it within 6 months.
Okay, thank you very much.
My question, so you're saying we don't have to send out any notices at all, or we have a minimal amount?
Minimal amount.
Okay.
And Mr. President, if I may, I think in our meeting, my recommendation is that we would send the normal notices, even though it's not required, just as a precaution on our part. Well, just show good faith on our part of what we're actually doing in the city. And so even if that would prolong the process just a little bit, my recommendation is that we still send notices normally that we would as we move forward.
Absolutely, because many people don't like to be surprised. And so if everybody just knows what the city's doing, it's just an important step.
And to you, Mr. Harris, you said if we did the school, that wouldn't affect our police, or for my clarity, I guess.
No, go ahead.
So Prince George's, it's still Prince George's County. Prince George's County would be the primarily responsible for the school, of course. I'm gonna let Hayward talk about it because I gotta give him an opportunity.
With the MOU with Prince George's County, all Prince George's County public schools remain under the jurisdiction of Prince George's County Police.
Okay.
So with, for instance, C Pleasant Elementary School, if there were to be an incident at C Pleasant Elementary School while C Pleasant is in C Pleasant and we're there all the time, it would still maintain the responsibility from Prince George's County Police. The same thing would happen if we were to annex the Central High School. Prince George's County Police would maintain the SRO program. Prince George's County Police would maintain all things that have to do with the Prince George's County school system, but it would just be within C Pleasant again.
Okay. Understood. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say thank you for having me this evening. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. Obviously, I will be keeping you informed as to the status and to make sure, and please, any questions that may arise, as Ms. Ball knows, I am available. So,
Okay, thank you for coming out this evening.
okay, have a good evening.
You do the same.
Thank you.
Citizens' comments. Ms. Ball, are there any citizens online, or?
We do have one citizen on the line, Mr. Jones. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Jones, we have allowed you in to speak, please unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to say, I'm not sure if the citizens know why we're annexing these areas. Can anyone speak to that, or can I receive a written response? Maybe it was said while, one of the meetings that I may have missed, but why are we, how do these areas benefit the city? Why are we doing annexation?
Of course, with any annexation, there's a lot of details, and we'll be more than happy to provide a written response to make sure he has all the details needed.
Anything else, Mr. Jones?
That's it. Have a good evening. Have a good week.
You do seem, sir. Anyone else, Mr. Ball?
No, that's the only citizen we did not receive. Let me double check. Before the meeting, I do not have any citizen comments, no written citizen comments for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Next is reports. Front and center, Mayor Porter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Okay, let's start off May the 1st. I had a meeting with the Next Generation Empowerment Method Incorporated. That was with Dr. Sandra Brooks. That particular organization deals with crisis intervention and other matters of that nature within the county jurisdiction, and they were looking towards the possibility of any services that we may need from that particular organization, or seeing how they could partner with the cities in providing the services that they render. Okay, I can provide the council with more detail on what the organization entails so that they can read through it. Okay, we're more than happy to provide that, but they provide a myriad of services that could be good, not only for the citizens, but also for our staffing, okay, services that I feel that are strongly needed to maintain our staff in a positive manner. On May 1st, I did a Sea Pleasant Day meeting with staff. On May the 6th, attended a regular work session. May the 13th, a meeting with the interim city administrator, so we could go through things and see exactly where things were. That is in reference to me trying to put together a state of the city address, in which during this session here, I could talk with the council and see how they would like to put those things together with reference to letting our citizens know exactly what the state of the city, because often we get a lot of questions regarding what state we're in and where we're going and what we intend to do, both here now and in the future. And we should have a process, regardless as to whether or not an election comes up and things change for that matter. At least if we know where the direction is, perhaps those who come in could follow some of that direction at least, unless they, of course, wanted to change things if they felt necessary. May the 13th, a regular public session. Also on May the 13th, the ARPA Balance meeting. On the 21st of May, I had a meeting with the Historic Preservation Commission. That is a commission I sit on through the county. We deal with historic properties throughout the county. Of course, we have historic properties as well, so being a part of that committee gives me and through the city an opportunity to look at how we can deal with things in the future with reference to historic preservation here now in the city. On the 23rd, I had a meeting with Lead by Example. It was a virtual meeting. That is another organization that deals with things to do with child welfare and things that have to deal with programs that we can put together for young adults within the confines of the city. On the 29th, I attended a closed session. On the 30th, I had a virtual meeting with a celebration of the ANHPI Heritage Month. Also, the legislation's adoption was trying to deal with an ordinance O-2413 adoption fiscal year 24-25. That was the second reading, that legislation, just to be an integral part of that. On the events that I had on May the 10th, a proclamation presentation to the C Pleasant Elementary School. On May the 12th, I did a police, well, that wasn't me, but I at least wanted to participate in a unity tour. That should have been stricken and so forth, but I didn't have that. On May the 30th, the Memorial Day Wreath Ceremony, which was a good presentation. We had the opportunity to tour, at least I toured 3 cities on that particular tour, because I believe it was 5 cities in total, to conclude at Glenarden for the wreath ceremonies. It was it's a well-attended program. It was attended by both our Congressman Glenn Ivey, County Council persons, Jolene Ivey, and we have senatorial gentleman there. In the International Municipal Clerks Week, we had proclamation for that. We also had a proclamation for the Teachers Appreciation Week, a National Cities, Towns, and Village Month, which we rang the bell along with other cities and towns for the National League of Cities. And also, it was National Public Works Week, which I read a proclamation for our municipal workers, and I think they were pleased with receiving that and knowing that we feel that they're doing a great job here in the city. May 18th, I attended a Community Kinship Coalition, Inc. Youth Summit, okay, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that completes my report. But what I'd like to add, while I have the floor for discussion, is that I received information on the opioid settlement collab opportunities that are being provided to cities in the state. And in February, the PGCMA meeting with SAMNY was discussed the opioid settlement that would be coming to local municipalities. And what we're doing, if we can collaborate with one or two of the cities, we can find out whether or not we are due some of those fundings, okay, to come in our direction. And that's what I wanted to talk about as far as that's concerned. Okay. That completes my report. And on the collab with that was, I wanted to make sure that I'm moving forward for anything that could bring in a funding to the city, specifically with reference to a crisis that affects us and many families throughout the state, throughout the country. But I wanted to bring it forward to the council as the discussion, as opposed to just the mayor's office saying, yes, we want to move forward on it, but the council or the city as a whole want to move forward on that particular collaboration. That's it. Thank you.
Council President. First of all, Mayor, thank you for updating us in terms of the opioid settlement. I just want to make it clear that the monies from that settlement, they trickle down. Of course, they go to the states, but they could trickle down to even the municipalities?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, good evening, first of all. My question is less for the mayor and more for the acting chief. Do we have data on opioid usage or like overdoses or anything related to that for the city?
We can pull the call for services for any opioid calls that we may respond to. I know that that number is not as high right now, knock on wood, but we would be able to try and pull some type of data to see where the city is with it.
Because I can imagine that money may be earmarked, right? And we would probably have to use it for a certain type of thing, depending on whatever whatever they're saying. And so I want to make sure, not that there's a need, but
We have the data to support it.
Right, that we have the data to support, hey, and if we decide to collaborate with 2 other cities and we can say, well, in our city, we have this much, in that city, they have this. This is why we need it, or, you know what I mean? Like, to be able to put something together to support the mayor's efforts. So I don't know if we can get working on that. That would be,
I'll
I'm
pull some
looking at
information
you.
and get it over to the city manager, and
Thank you.
he can forward it up to
I'm
you.
looking for permission.
As well as, we were supposed to provide, I think we had discussion about trainings, okay, for that. I know I took a training that was provided at Hyattsville. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's
So yeah, I would tell you that the police department does annually take Narcan training
Right.
For all of our sworn staff. We were looking to bring that to make it a city training, because I do believe, especially with EJD being out and about throughout the city, a lot of the times they may benefit from it, because as you know, if someone were to go into a crisis, we want the help to be able to be there for them. So.
thank you. Thank you.
On your report, did you forget did we do the fallen officer this month, or was it last month?
The Unity Tour, what's that, a part
That-
of the Unity Tour?
No,
Yeah, that was-
no, the
that was
one we
part of the
down at
tour.
City of Praise.
Oh, okay. Well,
You may want to add that to your report.
I'll add it to the report, but thank you, Council President, for reminding me. We did do that, and I think that's a part of what I looked at. That was that tour, and I thought maybe it had to do with the bike tour. So I did not place that, which I know so that's where in the report, we may have had a little bit of a,
No,
yeah, okay. But we did do we had an opportunity at City of Praise. Was, I believe, a large amount of it was sponsored by our interim city manager and chief of, it was a presentation to honor our fallen officers. Beautiful presentation, followed by, a bit of vittles and whatnot, but it was a beautiful presentation. Yeah, I'll use that word, I'm sorry, food. Thank you, sorry. Okay. But, and we appreciate the fact that our city was recognized, okay, for putting together a beautiful presentation, okay, to honor our fallen officers. Thank you, Mr. President, for reminding me that did take place.
okay. Yeah, city managers report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My report is in board docs for your review. And so just to highlight a couple of things before the departments come up and give their presentations. We're very excited. I do appreciate those who were able to attend the event at the City of Praise. I'll tell you that from the reception that we got from just the elected leaders that were there, they were highly impressed with how Sea Pleasant does their events and how we presented ourselves. We did represent the city extremely well, so I do appreciate the support on that. In my report, you all will see several key factors that I've identified just in the last month that I think need to be a priority for our city as a whole. And just looking down the list, it's things that we've already talked about, but just doing an analysis of what I've seen over the last 30 days. Additionally, you all received an email from PGCMA about the legislative breakfast during MML. I would just need a head count of those who wanted to attend. I was gonna go ahead and reserve it on behalf of the city if we wanted a table or things like that. So if that be the case, just need a head count of those who would, from the council who wanted to attend. We probably would need multiple tables if everybody goes. So I'm going to, Ms. Loretta. Okay. So if you all just can let us know. So I was gonna go ahead and just purchase it this week, so that we can, if we wanted to go, we already had the tables available for us. Yes, ma'am.
So, when we initially got that email, I sent it to Ms. Rhoda because that ticket money comes out of each and every one of our budgets. And so she's the one who has the numbers or what we have, which is why it was sent that way. And so even if we are purchasing tables, I want to be sure that when the purchase requisitions go in, it's done properly.
We're ready. Yeah, that's why I said we just need to know who wants to
And-
attend.
And there are certain incentives in purchasing full tables as opposed to individual tickets. So whatever you do, and this is just straight from PCMA, don't purchase the tickets individually. You have to buy the table or it won't count for whatever the extra incentives are. What day is that? I think it's always that Monday or Tuesday.
I believe it's on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's a
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Okay.
At 7 in the morning, though.
I'm hoping that they'll discuss trying to change that a bit to around 8.
They're
but
not, they're not changing it.
Yeah,
They're not
But 7
changing
in
it.
the morning.
so only 2 cocktails left.
But anywho, yeah, so.
So also, if you guys, if you all have the opportunity just to look over the report, I will tell you that one of the things that we identified in our department meetings, that I don't know if this format of our reporting is effective, even for the city manager, for example, because really what all I would do is be highlighting already what they're going to say, since they're going to already be here. And so Ms. Ball is actually going to come up with some drafts of a better format for us to just better execute, just in our monthly reporting, that it's effective, right? It's not just it's not repetitory every month, if that makes sense. So that's one of the things that I think we can do to better kind of serve and operate efficiently in our meetings. Other than that, I certainly will take any questions before the department heads come up.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 things. One is for the city clerk's department in regards to the contracts or records being kept and stored. Are there going to be new file cabinets provided or a new system or space for that?
I think even if we needed to keep them electronically, I think that'll be more effective. But I think that we need to centralize so that when we need to pull what contracts the city is actually under, that our records custodian has it already. And so I think as of right now, the departments kind of keep track of each individual contract, which they still could if they're managing it, but just to have copies with the clerk's office filed so that it's just easier to manage. That's kind of where that's coming from.
Okay, so that question definitely goes towards electronic or physical. So as long as we're thinking about that. And then the other thing was, I see the public safety says they're working on a theft from auto information campaign. Love it, right? But it was my understanding when we purchased those extra boards that we would display when the meetings were happening, the ones that are in each ward. And I know it's a hassle to go out there to have to change the signs when you're working on something, but as of right now, there's nothing out to say we have a meeting on this day, right? And we need to get back to that.
I agree. I think that those boards were purchased in haste I believe from ARPA originally. I do not think that they are necessarily always effective. They really should be used for traffic notifications and emergencies, not necessarily those notifications. But since Rick is here now and we have someone in public engagement, that's something that we can definitely jump on. I know that and even last year, I remember sitting in the council meeting and that conversation was had. It just never happened. I think the police department was just being proactive because they were just sitting there. And they wanted to put some information out, but Rick is in the room and he hears you guys, and I'm sure for his sake he's going to make sure that that task is executed.
Because we were told they weren't working, but now they seem to be up and working. So
I didn't know that.
Can I? Once you pick it up, I'm sorry.
everybody go ahead.
I was going to piggyback on what she was saying. But,
You first.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I had a question that was a follow-up discussion, regarding a follow-up discussion. there was language in the policy regarding like our service members, right? And I wanted to make sure that language can get tracked and reworded if necessary to include anybody that we may hire in the coming future who may be in any type of reservist, National Guard, Air Guard position, and want to make sure that they are properly given a time off, if they're given orders, et cetera. And I don't want anyone left out. So I just wanted to make sure that was still on the radar to be handled.
It is. We did have a conversation about it. And for clarification, we're talking about the difference between active duty, reservist, or auxiliary, and what those definitions actually mean. As of right now, the policy does not guarantee that leave for auxiliaries who are serving in the military. And so as we redo the personnel rules and regulations manual, it's already on the radar. I've already met with HR. We've talked about it. But as we revamp the manual, it's something that we can certainly consider. I will tell you, though, it has to be in the best interest of the city, and the definitions of those roles need to be clearly defined. And so as they are in the service, and then we'll go from there.
Two things I want to follow up on what Councilwoman McCarthy indicated, but we should be working on stationary signs because, as you indicated, those signs were, for the most part, were done for rollout purposes, and we're looking at, or at least had discussion, to have some type of signage, as we had in many communities have it, which you have boards that you're able to change, but they're stationary, they're there to fix. People know where they are. They can kind of go to them or see them, okay, regularly. And that's the kind of things we were talking about in our recommendation from Mr. Krause's office to bring forward that process for the council for review to get those in strategic locations throughout the city, okay? And they could be things that could be dealt with. Is what our major concern was, how would they be, how would the electric get to them, with how many different things. But we have a lot of ways now of utilizing items even through solar now, so that it wouldn't be so prohibitive as to have to go through a lot of different channels in order to get them up and running. The other thing, Chief, I'd like to talk to you about is the discussions. I'll make sure that we're clear on our health and welfare programs that we're looking forward to deal with the city, okay, and our employees, so as from a retention standpoint, and even with reference to our additional hiring, okay, for new staffs, where we reference to getting that move forward for the council's consideration, okay. You have any update or follow up on how we're going with that?
Yes, I've already met with HR about looking into additional services outside of that. I think the best mode for that, though, will be to bring that to the committee first. And it'll take a series of meetings because I'm sure the presentations will be probably 30, 45 minutes from a particular vendor or things like that. But we'll put that in committee for review first and get their thoughts on it before it becomes to the full council.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you, Mr. President, you want me to go ahead and call up the departments? We'll go ahead and start with finance, our CFO.
Good evening, President Rayner, council members, and Mayor.
Good evening.
You do have my report in board doc. I just want to do a summary. The FY22 audit, we did provide the general ledger as well as the trial balance to the auditors. Our supposed date was Friday, but we did it on Saturday because I had some questions with regard to the information I received. So that's been done. The performance audit, we continue to get requests from the auditors regarding expenditures, regarding travel, so we're working on that, as well as procurement. The paycheck time and attendance module, that module is working, it's up. We attempted to do training on the last pay period, but there was some complication with the way employees were classified versus hourly versus salary. And so that's been resolved, and we're trying to reschedule training again. Training has to occur during the week that we're actually doing payroll. And so I put out a request to see whether or not we might be able to have training tomorrow. I haven't heard back yet. But if we don't do it this pay period, it'll be the following pay period. The employee 457 contribution, numerous employees contribute to that 457 plan. And as part of the integration from ADP to Paycheck, we need to set up a system to be able to upload their donations directly to the retirement administrator. So that process is occurring. In the interim, finance is uploading that information so that the CBIZ can continually contribute, add the amount to the employee's plan. The Industrial Bank credit card, Industrial Bank has agreed to give the city a credit card. It has asked that we get a letter from the state Department of Legislative Services getting approval that our extension for the FY24 audit has been approved by them. So that request to the state has already been made, so we're waiting a response. I did talk with Industrial Bank. I told them that we would want at least a $35,000 credit on the credit card, and that's sufficient for them. So they're just awaiting the letter that we get from the Department of Legislative Services. You do have a listing of the revenues that came in for the month of May, total amount of almost $7 million, and you can see the makeup between the various accounts. We had some other revenues to come in, particularly a business personal property tax of $115,000. Total expenditures, for the month of May, as you look on the report, of $453,207, as well as we have some other expenditures as well. And I really want to point out one of the expenditures, Matrix Trust, that was the $180,000. That was the amount that was paid based on an issue we brought to the council last month to make sure that the city's retirement contributions have been paid for the last few years. I'll stop. And any questions?
Questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead,
I have
sir.
a question. Ms. Ball, Ms. Ball. Calm down. Ms. Logan, thank you so much for your outstanding work, and particularly thank you for your persistence with Industrial Bank. And many people don't know that, but that was really, really great on your part. PNC, does that mean we're not going to approach PNC in terms of a credit card?
We can, but not only a credit card, the city still needs to move money out of Industrial Bank. There's still too much money in there. It needs to diversify. And I think PNC, opening an account with PNC, it could be a bank account, or it could be an investment, or we can either add more investments to the state investment fund. But with PNC, they have more to offer the city. Because if we offer a bank account, a checking account with them, we can institute so much amount of money every month or every day to be swept. So every day the city is making money. Right now the city is not making a lot of money with Industrial Bank.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Ben,
Go ahead, continue.
you just,
With the diversification process that you're actually going through, Ms. Logan, I applaud you on that, because we do need to do that, because we know that the bank's only going to insure it up to a certain amount of money, certainly well below what we actually have sitting there. The other thing is that we need to look into the aspect of bringing a banking institution into the city, okay? As we know that the Bank of America, we only have a few what you call teller machines that are here, and no central banking. And people come from all over even to use those particular machines. But we need to do that because we know that that particular institution, or at least the Bank of America, is not going to be here any more than maybe 9 more months. I keep getting updates on how long it's going to be here. But we need to look into that. And I know that I've asked you about it several times, and we're trying to make sure that we move in that direction. So that's something we need to really do. There have been a few people that have made an approach to want to be a part of it. As a matter of find a location for them to actually be in there. And having the conversation with where the present one is, they're not adverse to still having a banking institution still be a part of that facility. So we should think about that as well.
Yes, and as we had discussed, one thing about a bank coming into any locality, you're talking about at least 3 to 5 year plan, because not only they're looking to see whether or not the location's going to be able to be profitable to them. And one thing that the city needs to really understand, when Bank of America left the city, that's one question they're going to ask: why did Bank of America leave the city? So the city has to be able to address that question, as well as meet some of their economic indicators and making sure that they make money. And so that's a 3 to 5 year plan. So we have to get with the right people. Currently, working at the branch level, they're not the right individuals. We have to deal with the headquarters.
Right.
So that's something, that's on our agenda. And and Mr. Mayor, you also asked me at the last meeting about whether or not Legit had coverage for collateralization of funds that are above $250,000. They do have a subcontractor in which I'm setting up information should be having a meeting with them very soon. I got some information from Legit today with regard to that. So that's a possibility in addition to Industrial Bank.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Hi, Ms. Logan. I want to mirror my colleague's sentiments. Thank you for the work that you've done. It's been tremendous. In regards to the credit card, when we get that document from the state, if you had an estimated time of how long it would take to get that credit card established from receipt of that letter, what would you say?
They're ready to move right away.
Okay.
I talked with the branch manager. They said as soon as we get the letter, then she'll be forwarding it over to their credit card department. So we should get a real quick turnaround.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up. Next up, public safety.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So just a few things, like our report is already in board docs, so hopefully you've had a chance to review it. I'm just going to touch on a few things. In the month of May, we were able to apply for 6 grants through GOCCP in hopes of helping with our staffing, as well as helping with our overtime costs with certain events. In April, late April, we didn't talk about this, but in late April, we were able to partner with the organization Christmas in April, and we were able to assist a family a homeowner on 66th Avenue with helping her make some repairs to her home. If you don't know what Christmas in April is, they're an organization, a volunteer group that helps repair houses for senior citizens that may be unemployed, low income, or physically unable to maintain their houses. So that was one thing that we were excited to partner with, and we're glad that they chose a residence in Seat Pleasant for us to be able to assist. We've already talked about it, but thank you again to everybody that was able to come to our Fallen Officers Memorial at City of Praise. Not just on behalf of myself, but the officers, they were really excited to see members of the council and member of the staff there, so I do appreciate everybody's attendance. If you notice, we've been busy in the month of May. Good things are happening. We've continued to see an increase in calls for service and public safety throughout the city. This month, in the month of May, we're up 35% in calls for service. I'm also glad to say 72% of the crimes that were reported to us in the month of May resulted in an arrest. Majority of those being that of thefts. Last month we talked about our Theft from Auto campaign, and that continues to be pushing forward. We're hoping to start that campaign this Friday, the 7th, and that includes our social media campaign, and that also includes our vehicle security assessment. Hopefully you all had a chance to look at the draft that was done. That's what we will be using to go around and try and assist with preventing some of the theft remodels that are happening. There'll be a short training period just so I can make sure that all the officers understand what our goal is and what our target is, and then we'll be pushing that out. We also talked last month in reference to getting more steering wheel locks, and hopefully that's be something that the council, we can give the council members and they can try and help pass those out throughout their ward. We did order those back in mid-May. We spoke to the gentleman this morning, and he should be getting an update to us soon. So we're hoping that we will have 120 locks coming in rather soon that we can pass to the mayor and council, and of course the police department will hold on to a couple. We met with the state's attorney's office last month in reference to trying to come up with a global case for the gentleman that we discussed last month in reference to our theft remodels. Our criminal investigation unit is working fast-paced to continue to list all of this gentleman's attempts to steal from vehicles. We're monitoring the neighborhood app, or the Neighbors app, and as well as the Ring app. And I can tell you, every morning I check it, and it's not just Seat Pleasant that this gentleman is in, but the good thing about it is we have a profile on him. We know what he looks like, and we know what he does, so we're able to quickly identify him in those videos that they're posting on those apps, and we're adding it to our list. So hopefully when we come together again with the state's attorney's office, we're gonna have an exclusive list of as many theft remodel cases as we can find on this gentleman, and the state's attorney's office is looking forward to assisting us in the prosecution of it. We're not gonna stop, and we're gonna keep going. We do have a couple operations coming up that are going to assist us in this effort, but again, I'm proud to say that those thefts that were reported, we've been able to make arrest on it, all but one. As far as NCC, just a brief update, we have interviewed a lot of applicants. We have 2 applicants that have signed conditional offers. So we're hoping that within the next week or 2, we will have 2 new NCC inspectors working for the city. One of them, by the grace of God, we were able to persuade to come from Prince George's County DPI. This person does have a lot of experience when it comes to that, so we're hoping that's going to help us. And we're also going to be working with a couple of other code enforcement sections within a couple of other municipalities to try to assist us with training, because I want to make sure that those inspectors that we come in have the best training possible so that we're setting them up for success. So look out for that, look out for them. Once they are hired and they're in, I'll work with Human Resources to make sure that we maybe send an email out with the pictures, contact information. That way you all are able to see who they are. You'll know them when you see them throughout the community. And my plan is for them to hit the ground running. Captain Cordine, I said it before, has been a tremendous help with trying to stay on top of NCC as much as he possibly can, along with all of his other duties. We're still actively doing inspections. We're still doing business inspections, rental inspections, business license, rental license, vacant property licenses, dumpster licenses, everything else that goes along with that, where we're still able to keep up with that without having NCC inspectors. But we are excited that we have 2 new members hopefully joining the team rather soon. That is all that I have for my report. Are there any questions?
Good.
Good evening, thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Under the previous administration, there was some conversation about removing the bins for the donation clothes and things like
Closed
that.
donations.
Has there been any follow-up on that? Because I saw some new bins, some red bins now, that I'm seeing. I know we had the yellow and we saw blue, but now I'm seeing red bins in the parking lots of some of the businesses.
And you're specifically speaking on like the closed donation bins, right?
Yeah,
So there's not an update on it, but there will be one
okay,
come the next meeting.
okay.
We just have to ensure that we want to ensure that the wording and the ordinance allows us to put certain expectations in place. But I think if we're able to just have conversations with those business owners who we have a rather good communication with, we'll be able to work something out just to make sure that something's figured out with it.
Okay,
But I will definitely have an update by the next council meeting.
okay, thank you. I yield.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Love.
The people who are putting the bins up, do they get permission from the businesses, or do they just put them up?
Typically, I would suspect that they're getting permission from the property owners, from the business owners. I would expect that we probably would have heard something from the business owners if they did not have their permission to be put up. But again, I just want to make sure that if they are being put up, that we have the ability to track them, and that we're following the code as is written.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I yield.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Harris. Hayward.
Thanks, sir.
All right, next up, Human Resources.
Good evening, Council President, Mayor, and council members.
Good evening.
Excuse me. In the month of May, we've had some, unfortunately, some resignations and/or terminations. One was in Department of DPW and the Department of Waste Management. Since then, we've posted the jobs, the vacant positions, and we've have interviews scheduled for this week in the attempts to fill those positions. Also, positions that have been interviewed but unsuccessful, unfortunately, is for the senior accounting. We had a potential person, but they later declined. Also, in the Human Resources Department, we are scheduled for June the 18th and June the 20th for staff to take harassment training with the Department of Legit. Workers' compensation claims, we've only had one this month that we had to work on. Paychecks, as Ms. Betty noted, as you know, we've transitioned over to paychecks, but I've had meetings, several meetings with ADP to take the historical data from ADP and have it inputted into paychecks. And that's important because when we do PIAs, we need the historical data of employees who have left the city. If I have to do a income verification or employment verification, the historical data is needed. And currently, it's not in paychecks. Also, we've had several leadership meetings. We've met several times with public engagement, gearing up for Juneteenth Day. We have a lot of potential food vendors that we have contacted and have committed to serve the city. As far as the MML Writers Program, I'm staying in contact with them because the Writers Program, opens up in July. And as the council has expressed interest, we want to get into the Writers Program. So I'm staying on top of that. Meetings with staff, I've only had one PIA this month. We've screened and hired a background company called Pose No, so for now on, we're going to be attempting to use them for backgrounds for future employees. I worked very closely and hard this month with CBIZ. As you all know, you approved the retirement company for the 401A, the $180,000. Once you approve that, we had to go back into our historical data in ADP and pull employees who were employed from 2019 to 2023. So those employees will be eligible once they've had 100 hours per year. Those employees are eligible for that money. So I worked very closely with them this month and identifying all those employees. Also, I work closely with the interim city manager on job descriptions that you all approve in this budget, the deputy clerk position, at the economic development director position, the staff assistant position, and the HR generalist position. So once those are positions are approved by you, then we will post for those positions and hopefully be successful in hiring. I've also worked closely with the interim city manager regarding the HR department's 30, 60, and 90-day departmental goal. And a part of that goal is to not only bring on an HR generalist, but also bring on an HR portal to help streamline a lot of the paperwork that has to be done, and it'll also be accessible to employees, and things will become more electronic as opposed to paper. So that sums up some of HR's duties this month.
Any questions for the HR department?
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Barber.
Thank you.
All right, next up, grants.
Good evening.
I'm just gonna go over the report. As you can see, the first one was the project charge. It was suggested by the county council person that we submit a letter to be included in the next fiscal year project charge budget. So that was done. The next one is the Prince George's Planning Municipal and Communities, the PMAC grant, which was requiring a resolution and application, which was done. They're coming close to finishing their part of it, and then they'll do, as they have done historically, a presentation, which usually happens like during the day or could happen in the evening because it's extensive. It's not something that we would have in this setting because they go into very much detail. So the last time we did this, we had it in the trailers, and it was like half a day. So they're very specific and intense with their presentations. The construction delay is still going on. It's very unnerving, but we're still working on that. To the point where we had to send a request for an extension to the funders, which we have done at their request. So it wasn't something we asked to do. They told us that we understand because they've dealt with DPI. So, yeah. At long last, the NDC Neighborhood Design Center contract was signed, and we have our kickoff meeting next week. So excited. So that will involve the development of 10 RFPs, 9 of which will involve the construction of the cultural hub. The front of it, we're looking to redesign. And then the materials, which will all be sustainable and environmentally friendly, which is the main reason we want to do it this way. And then the final piece will be the Cultural Hub Curatorial Committee, which will be comprised of citizens, business owners, elected officials. It's going to be a fairly large committee, which will be charged with determining what kinds of events will go up there. It's not just going to be barbecues and, stuff like that. It's going to be cultural, educational, and physical activities, scheduled cultural activities. So I'm really looking forward to that. ARPA, okay, so we got our required U.S. Department of Treasury quarterly project and expenditure report, and that's been submitted. And I have had some really interesting meetings with members of Mayor and City Council about their use of their final project. They're very, very, I like all your projects, those I've spoken to. And let's see. We're still waiting on a couple of bids for the replacement of the marquee. And then I just want to put out there for an obligation for a large sum of the money, and I'll say why I'm doing this in another part of the report. Our equipment, our computer equipment, our iPads, our laptops, while we have a nice sum of money, it may be a good idea to purchase everybody's equipment now and then budget it in future fiscal years, a 3-year plan for replacement. But at least we could potentially do it up front. It would, an upfront purchase, and everybody will be on the same page, because we've historically not always been on the same page with our equipment like that. So, in addition, we may want to look into, but there's some grants that came up recently about our cybersecurity and things of that nature that we might want to, that we should, not might, tap into. NLC put out a article about that as far as what municipalities should consider with what is going on now. Yeah. So the brownfield, I know that's a touchy subject, but as I said, we got accepted to the EPA TA program, which is technical assistance. Does not require ownership. Does not, all we need to do, all they're going to be doing is market studies and different studies that will involve outside the brownfield and what could potentially happen over there. Now, last week, the TA crew, which consisted of EPA and the West Virginia Technical Assistance Crew, which is Region 3, which we are in, so they're always present at anything that when we talk about the brownfield. Went in there, they were amazed at the site. They said, because they see them all the time, they said it's an amazing site, it really is. But the original testing from the TBA program, the Targeted Brownfield Assessment Program, which we got phase 1 and 2, that last phase has still got a little tweaking to do. That did the testing. Went out there and did actual soil testing all around before they come to you, so they can have more detail. So they would like to come to you all in July to talk about this. So we meet weekly, the whole team. So they were really happy about that. And in view of that, then when we came back, we were just talking, and I just started talking about the fire station, just because that's our next project. So I was telling them about the condition and what's just potentially in there, and how Chief almost fell through the floor and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So they said, right? That's what you said? Because you're the one that fell.
TMI.
Right. Sorry, Chief. But with all that being said, one of the team members said, well, that sounds like a brownfield too. Right? So that means they're going to talk about whether we could potentially get another TBA application and don't have, once again, no ownership, just an assessment. That's half the battle, we already know it's a mess. It was built in 1958, which means you
Ms.
still
Rhoda, if I
got
may,
the-
really quick, when you mention the numbers, it could be, it could throw us off a little bit. And I think that the goal is not to use necessarily the city funds for that. We want to just look at what the brownfield and what the firehouse could possibly be. And so, if we're using, the reason why that tour, the brownfield with Ms. Rhoda was so important was because they can find outside resources and funding to fund those projects and to really give us a design of what that looks like. So when you hear like certain dollars, it could be potentially that's what it costs, but if we get those grant money from agriculture or things like that, that's what funds it.
Yeah.
And when they had that conversation, I was able to come up there and meet them. And my mind was actually, I would tell you, my mind was blown. Like, I was like, wow, other things they were saying. Like, and when they talked about the firehouse, they talked about not it from a historical standpoint, but what if it could be, I know in the past we've talked about like the fresh market, stuff like that, but I'm talking about something way beyond that.
Right.
You know, like one of the things I brought up was, you know, like the Regis building down at the harbor where it's office spaces for rental and things like that. But really imagining how it could be beneficial to us, but and be properly useful. We do need a meeting space. I think that's one of the things that we're always going to make sure we need. We definitely need a meeting space. But when we were talking to them and they're talking about, hey, that could qualify under the Brownfield project, and what that may look like. So coming up with designs and things like that. So I do want to commend Ms. Rhoda on meeting with them and walking down by the brownfield. I actually wanted to do the walk until they told me they found bear feces down there. But just looking at the photos and things like that, just reimagining. You know, we talked about reimagining Goodwin Park, reimagining what it could be. And so when we're thinking about these things, keeping you all updated and involved, not just in the monthly meetings, right, but just in general of what it could be and long term is really important. And what does Sea Pleasant, not just what Sea Pleasant looks like now, what does Sea Pleasant look like in the next 10, 25, and 30 years? That's what we need to be planning for. And so that meeting was really important that she had, and I really do appreciate that relationship. Just talking about reimagine those areas, even those areas that we do not necessarily own, because some projects allow us to come in, help those owners with the funding, to get the funding and sign certain things that gives us temporary ownership while the grant cleans up the project, right? And so when you hear that's not necessarily spending our money right away, but it does help us to help business owners look at what development looks like for their areas too. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say that 4 or 5 million or that 20 would be coming out of our pocket. Not at all. It would be coming out of EPA's pocket. And make that clarification. Sorry. Yeah, so that would be really good. And for a meeting space over there, we take some of that money from the county and you know, the police could have trained there. It's a gold mine. So, yeah, to the next one is the tri-jurisdictional. As you know, we had our first meeting there, and we're still talking about how that's going to play out and the goals that the 3 municipalities should be thinking about or talking about, especially as it relates to the Blue Line corridor. You know, we're all 3 of them are near the corridor, but we're right on the corridor. Okay, so that fire station and us here and the brownfield, we're right there. So we need to be at the table. Yes, Saturday went to what was the name of that meeting, Mr. Did you mention that in your report? The development that is potentially coming right on the other side of the used car lot and the billboard. Yacht Place. So that's going to be like a, what they say, like 7-story building with 40 some odd units. That's potentially, not it's going to be, with parking on the bottom and the units up top, and along with the parking at the bottom would potentially be mixed use. So that's going to be exciting. They're in the planning stages, so they're inviting everybody to the hearings for that. The lawyer that was there is from Shipley and Horn, so he's you know, he has historically worked with Seat Pleasant, so that was good. So, yeah. That's what's new and exciting.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I don't have a question, but it's more of a comment, for the council members. So, with the project charge not going as planned, I worked with Ms. Rhoda to try to figure out a way that we can somewhat still get at least one of the projects done. So with some of my opera funding, I will still try to get, something similar to the SOS program, at least a great portion of the SOS program, get that taken care of. So, we are looking to bring in like a social work intern to do a resource directory. So that when people are calling us and saying, well, I need help with my water bill, or I have a elderly parent and I need somewhere for them to go during the day, right? We'll have resources for all of that. And we'll be able to direct our residents a little bit better. So we haven't given up hope on the project charge, but we're not stopping at that. And so, I don't know if everybody has met with Ms. Rhoda yet regarding your ARPA funding, but that is something that I'm going to use a portion of my funding for to get us established in doing that. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that that's something we're looking forward to doing this summer. So when it happens, nobody's, caught off guard. And I guess I'll have her report on it once it's up and running so everybody can know what's going on. Until we find out from the county whether or not the project charge will be brought back next year. So I just kind of wanted to let everybody know that.
Ms. Rhoda, thank you for all that you do. As you know, the Blue Line Corridor is a very important part of this area, and I am a strong advocate of the tri-jurisdictional effort. As a matter of fact, Acting Chief Hayward and I at a recent meeting had a spirited discussion about that, particularly in terms of a state legislator suggested that Seat Pleasant Police serve as an epicenter for the three jurisdictions. And Chief Hayward kind of took a little exception to that, but I'm glad that he did because he opened my eyes to some issues. But I believe, and I don't think I'm in the minority on this, I believe that the three jurisdictions should work more closely together in order to help develop this community. Thank you, I yield.
Because no names mentioned, this person has had several meetings, this legislator, where they just gripe and talk about what money we didn't get on the east side of the Blue Line Corridor, east of Hill Road. All the development on the west side, that took 20 plus years to develop. So it's not going to be in our best interest to just say, well, we didn't get any of that money, or we didn't. Okay, so if somebody just drops a check for however many millions of dollars they would like to have done it, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to, the three jurisdictions, if we need to work together to come up with a plan, even if it's not, just to say we're mad about what didn't happen. So what do you want to happen? That's what needs to happen, because anybody can, reiterate a problem or something. But what is the solution? What is the plan? So right now there isn't one, and even if it was, it's going to take time to develop. We have to sell it. So all these things that we're doing in Seat Pleasant, even if they're long-term things, at least they'll see that we have some skin in the game as far as contributing to the Blue Line Corridor development in Seat Pleasant, which is all we have to do. They know we don't have a lot of money. They know that. But they want to see if you have something viable to pay that they would be willing to fund or pay for.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Rhoda.
Public engagement.
Before before they come up, if you wanna let them go at, once they finish, you can.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Harris.
Okay, no problem. Public engagement.
Can I see you after the meeting? You gonna be here?
Good evening,
Good evening.
council. Hope everybody has had a good day so far. And my report is up for you. Just some real quick catch up of what we have been doing. Everything's in the report, but just wanted to mention that we are definitely doing a lot more training now on our Civic Plus website because there's a lot of opportunities there. Safety mentioned it, HR mentioned it, you know, we're gonna be creating the intranet. So this way will be a hub for a lot of these resources for the staff. And it's gonna be a long process. It's gonna take a couple of months to get this going. I'm actually meeting with the police department first this week to get what they need, what their needs are gonna be in the intranet. But I think with us having a central location is gonna make HR's job a lot more easier. It's gonna make our training for the staff a lot more streamlined and make sure that our resources are gonna be available in one central location from finance to anything pretty much that is needed for the staff. So would be one central hub location. We now have access to Google Analytics for the website. So this was our first month. It's kind of, we're starting to see a little bit of growth. It has grown 24% already. With that being said, we're gonna make it a little bit more user-friendly and more navigational. There's certain hotspots within the navigation map of the website itself on every single page. We're gonna start looking at that to see, for instance, for the most part, most of the visitors come to pay tickets. So we wanna make sure that that's up front and center for them because it streamlines how much time they spend on the website. It makes it a lot easier for us to be able to deliver that type of service to the visitors. There is a new rule that just came out, federal government, for ADA compliance, and that came out in April the 24th to be exact. So we have to be compliant with that rule. That's also going to affect a little bit more in detail how we interface with the public to make sure that we are following. Being a municipality, we have to follow the ADA guidelines from our newsletter to our website to even our social media now. We have to do a whole detail of what is being seen on every piece of platform that we have. So that's gonna, again, is gonna entail a lot more maintenance in our platforms, in our website, but I think it's gonna be a good thing because once we get compliant, it's gonna be smooth sailing from that point. Once we have all the tools in place. Wanted to mention, and this was with Mr. Hayward and I had we threw out some names, and instead of just calling it the Seat Pleasant newsletter, we're gonna call it Seat Pleasant Pulse. So we are gonna have a pulse on what we are doing. This will be our first time sending out this newsletter, which we're making sure goes out to every business and every home. We are also going to give them the opportunity to no longer receive it. If they want to disenroll, they'll call us. We're going to keep track of it. However, we are also going to give a gift for people for the month, because this way we see what kind of if they're actually reading it. That's what we want to know also, because we don't want to just send this piece of paper that they're just going to throw away. So we want to make sure that they're reading it. So we're going to give them an incentive to read it. We're gonna do this for 90 days, and once we have that information, hopefully we get good feedback from the community as to who's reading, who's not reading it, who wants to disenroll, and that's fine. The businesses will have the same opportunity. This will go on for 90 days, so around the last one should be August. And hopefully we have enough information, and we'll report back, so this way we can make a better educated decision on how to move forward after that. Our Juneteenth event is coming up. Really excited because this one seems, for my opinion, it seems a lot smoother. The staff is a little bit more in place with what we need to do because See Pleasant Day, we were a little rushed to try to put this whole thing together. But we kind of copy paste. Again, our biggest challenge is always vendors, making sure that they're happy and making sure that they have all the required documents that they need in order to be able to, especially the food vendors, to be able to serve. But we have some good numbers, and I'm confident that we are going to have a very good Juneteenth event. We have several other events, but mark this date down, May 3rd, 2025, See Pleasant Day. It's already on the calendar. So we're not going to wait that long. I'm already going to start working on some brochures for sponsors, because this way we're not listening to, oh, our budget is already spent for 2020. You know, we're going to hit them way ahead of time. My goal is to get that out by the end of this month to start getting the sponsor and vendor packages out. You know, I think See Pleasant has a reputation to uphold with See Pleasant Day, so we got to get back to where it used to be. Mr. Harris said that he used to come here when he had hair. So I think it's going to be good for us to kind of follow in that tradition to make sure that we have, 3,000 to 4,000 people showing up. The one thing I did want to mention is First Friday. We've been having some conversation about First Friday, and it's a great thing, right? Because it is going to help us with development, and it kind of goes to Ms. Rhoda's point. We have to show some type of development also with Friday and moving it around, but not just music or a party. It needs to have some type of engagement and some type of business development that attacks into it. So we definitely want to put that piece of the puzzle into it, so that way we do it correctly, not just doing, something for us to fulfill a checkbox. I want to be able to say, hey, we engaged with the electric company, came out and they talked to the community and they talked to some of the business owners about what they can do to have a better electrical usage program. So I think that these things need to kind of engage together. I understand it's more of a business development field, but for now, I'm gonna do the best that I can to try to integrate a lot of these other business pieces so we can fulfill other things that affect the city. And I believe that all those are public engagement pieces.
So real quick, Rick, Mr. President, if I may. So the event things that we do in See Pleasant are I think are great, but it's only effective if you have the engagement from the actual stakeholders here, right? And so if you don't touch these people will not show up. And so you can post it on social media, things like that. That's one avenue. But there are, particularly like Ward 5, for example, right? If we don't touch Ward 5, it's not going to be effective. You have to physically touch these people, and you need to find a creative way to make sure that we're getting to those who are not necessarily always on social media. Also, First Fridays, the host should be those business owners or those shopping centers that we're actually hosting the First Fridays on. But they need to be necessarily the hosts. We can help provide them with like the resources that are come, like the exhibitors and stuff that come. But we need the dates because it's a lot of things going on in the city. So these dates should already be kind of solidified. So that because we have quite a bit going on in the next couple of months, and so those dates would be good this week if we could, or at least tentatively, so we could put on everyone's calendar.
Not a problem. And with that being said, I wanted to, I had an idea just from looking around at other counties, other cities, and kind of the things that they're doing for that engagement and for the business development piece. And and that also ties in the need that we have for new equipment. So I looked at this podcast idea and kind of how we can create a podcast that would help us kind of engage with some of our stakeholders and some of our businesses and just kind of programs that are available for the community also. And that also helps us grow some of our other platforms and some of the other ways that we can continue to interact with the community, not just at these meetings, but in a consistent forum for just having a conversation about different programs that might be available for the community. And even having some community members, some business leaders that received grants in the past and how that worked for them. So this way we can attract new businesses into Sea Pleasant once they see how the city does support their current business owners.
Mr. President, if I may again, Rick, so with the ideas and stuff, we have to have the data to support it. So what data do we have to support that the Sea Pleasant residents will want a podcast and tune into a podcast? So we need to do surveys. We need to find out because is that going to be effective before we even do it? Because if you don't have the data to support it, it's just a game of chance. So you really have to talk to the residents to see if that is what they want on an engagement basis. And if the data supports it, then it's easier to justify funding for a project.
Mr. President? And thank you for all your efforts on Juneteenth. I appreciate it. I have not heard anything about the call them all and text them all yet. I know we're doing a lot of like social media campaigns and things like that, but if we don't have the manpower right now to necessarily go door to door, that call them all and text them all would do a great deal. I'm telling you, we have so many seniors who would pick up their phone and they'll listen to the message and they'll be right at Juneteenth because they heard it. Somebody called them. You know, that is just what, as a community, that's just how we operate. But I think that Mr. Harris is correct. Get some surveys out there. Now, problem with the surveys is we know SurveyMonkey is fun, right? But you may have to walk door to door. Get volunteers, walk door to door. Can I ask you a few questions? Let's fill out the survey and do it that way. Because that's just the type of community that we have. It would be ideal if you want to start this podcast, have surveys already printed out at Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
Have them already printed out. You kill two birds with one stone. You know, and to find out what people want, right? So, but yeah, call them all, text them all. I'm going to bring it up every time you give your report until I hear that it's working. I promise you, I'm going to keep bringing it up. I'm done.
I think Mr. Bilbrook
I'm done.
wanted to say something, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Hey, Rick, thank you for your report. Okay, I gotta ask. Sea Pleasant Pulse, okay? Between all the names that were available, what caused you to land on Sea Pleasant Pulse? And it's not to say it's a bad name, but I am genuinely curious.
I'm sorry.
Oh, cause see, I was looking at you.
I'm sorry,
You were like, yeah, I'm. Okay, so what landed it? What landed on?
So a little history behind Sea Pleasant, right? Sea Pleasant, when it was established, and it was one of the first railroad stations, right? Like it was a station. They called it District Line back then, and we talked about that name, but there was no real like, well, is that really where we are at now? So the historical name of it kind of, we were like, maybe that doesn't work. But how do we, the newsletter is meant to be informative, and we talked about how we wanted to change what's in it, and we wanted to make it a little bit more entertaining, more informative. So this way it kind of connects a little bit more. So that's kind of where the pulse came up to it, because it's about the reader. You know, this is what engages them or keeps them kind of in the know for C Pleasant.
Okay. And I love the tying it back to the history thing. If we were, when I think of C Pleasant Pulse, right, I think of maybe having, to McCarthy's point, a survey in it where they can mail it back to the city, right, and take an actual pulse of the city. If they are receiving something from us, right, we can have something in there that says, check these boxes, right? Write your name in, check these boxes, or leave it anonymous, whatever. And then we can have that and receive feedback from the city through the newsletter that will also give you a pulse on who was actually reading it, right? Because then you'll see, oh, we've sent out 700 newsletters. We got 150 people responding, or you see what I'm saying? Because I will say, living with elderly, they read every single piece of paper, right? If it is in a pamphlet, a booklet, or whatever, they go through every single one of them. So if they see, oh, they're asking me my opinion, they're gonna grab one of their pens and they're gonna answer that question, then they're gonna mail it back because they like to use the mailing system. You see what I'm saying? So that would actually be something, if we're really trying to get that survey, if we're really trying to get a pulse of the city, that is something I would include, and just call it the pulse page or whatever, right? But that would be something I would include in it if you're gonna.
Absolutely, that's a great idea.
I don't think I'm 100% sold on the pulse.
Thank you.
But
Take a vote.
I'm sure the city manager will let you guys know what the final decision is. But we're not so, you know, I think we could do something a little more clever. I think Rick, I do appreciate like the history that he broke it down. I think that's important, but I would like to see if we're going to do that, it needs to be something catchy. But we look forward to June's coming out really soon.
Ms. Love wanted to say something.
Yeah, I can definitely speak for Ward 2, because I have a lot of elderly folks there, and they are one-on-one people. And when you say about social media, they're not on that. So if you just use that, they ain't coming to nothing. And then it's on me to try to get that information to them, and I do try. But if you want to really get a good reaction, you come and interact with those folks. I can arrange to have them different places, because I do have a lot of meetings. So we can get together with that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll talk to you about that when you first started. I know Ward 2. Ward 2 just, that's Ward 2.
So no pulse.
No pulse.
You done, Ms. Love?
Yes, I'm sorry, I yield the floor.
Okay, Mr. Porter.
There's a lot of history to see Pleasant, quite a bit of history, okay, and the surrounding areas too. District line, I'm the familiarity, I know we were called Chesapeake Junction. Okay, along the district line, but it was Chesapeake Junction, which means the trolley went all the way from the district line all the way down to Chesapeake Beach. And there's even still a railroad track there to that particular ring, but there's a long line of history within the city. So as we're putting these things together, and we need the establishment of some type of historical ring that could go out to the reach of citizens as what they're talking about, to let them know exactly what happened, like a welcome. Okay, that's another one you go out to, a welcome. Whether they've been here for 40, 50 years or not, still it's a new day. So even when you're putting it out, it gives them some idea what's actually going on, along with the other things that are involved. So that's just a piece of history. Okay.
Rick, I want to thank you for your foresight and your vision and your forward thinking. The podcast idea, can be bandied about, talked about, but at least you brought it up. So I want to thank you for doing that. There's a newspaper guy, Pulse, I don't know, but I can go with that if that works. So just keep thinking forward like you're thinking, and that's great. Thank you very much. I yield.
Excuse me, Council President.
Councilwoman Hicks? Huh?
Did anybody over there have their hand up? Oh, okay. Rick, I sent you the welcome package with quite a bit of history in it It was done years back, under Ms. Wallace. It's completed. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use that package. That package would be beneficial, but there was quite a bit of history in it. There can be things that you can add to it, things you might want to take away, but it would be something that would be beneficial for you to show to Mr. Harris, so that maybe this can get out quicker because it's already done. It just needed to be sent to printing. So don't forget that piece is there. I heard Mayor Porter mention, you know, that welcome package. We do have, you know, new residents, and I asked about making sure that it was in Spanish was the main thing. Because even today, someone called me, said that they called the town hall and they couldn't get through, nobody answered, and they just simply wanted to know about bulk trash. You know, those type of things, those things are still needed. Don't forget that those things are still needed. New residents are moving in every day. So we need to make sure that our line of communication is open, so.
Yes, absolutely. The welcome package, actually, I did revise it, made it ADA compliant. So I went in, kind of sent that off. So I'm definitely working on that, and I'm just gonna do a little bit more last minute touch-ups on it, but I have been passing it around, and we did kind of review it already.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's it with your report?
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and please don't forget, at the end of this, I need to do a recap, quick, of the meeting.
Okay, all right, yeah, gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you can see, Mr. Barber is actually out until the end of the week. And so he will not be here tonight, so I could try to answer any questions for EJD. And we'll have next up will be the city clerk.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. My report, as you know, can be found in board docs, but briefly, just wanted to go over the legislative actions that the council had taken in the month of May. Of course, as you heard before, the approval of the fiscal year 24-25 budget ordinance O-2413 was held in May. The council had 3 actually council meetings in the month of May. Versus the month of April. The council also approved 8 meeting minutes for the month of April. We received a total of 9 Public Information Act requests in the month of May. We closed 5 of the 9 PIA requests. The department prepared and submitted the council handbook, revisions to the council handbook for the Government Affairs Committee for an upcoming meeting in the near future. Also submitted the city initiatives to the governor's office for the upcoming visit for the Governor Westmore to see Pleasant. Met with interim city manager, was delegated with finding reports that will reflect KPIs for each department, so that, you know, you can kind of see like the performance measures of each department. We'll be presenting some information to Mr. Harris by the end of the week in reference to that, and that completes my report. Any questions?
Any questions?
Quick question for Mrs. Ball.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Ball, for your outstanding work and your outstanding report. And I just want to say real quick that someday you're going to be a trivia question in terms of being the first African-American to lead the Maryland Municipal Clerks Association. Congratulations on that. Are you still active with that association? I'm just curious.
Yes, very active.
Thank you.
You okay? Go ahead. Yeah, that's it.
Are we going reports?
I guess so.
Question.
Oh,
We have some more people who've come to visit. Can we, I know we did citizen comments earlier, but can we ask if anybody has a comment?
no, I'm just kidding. We can do that now if we want to, because we do not have any committee reports, do we?
No.
No, so Mrs. Ball, is there any other residents that would like to speak now, since we have a?
Well, we have two present. I know that Ms. Kearney was trying to get in the building, and I'm glad she gained access. I'm not certain if you have any citizens' comments. Mr. Simpson, do you have any comments?
Okay,
You and your little team.
all righty, legislation, none, unfinished business. The sixth annexation update, we kinda went over that already. Yeah, we kinda went over that with Todd, so is there anything else we need to speak?
No, it was just on the topic if there were any more questions, but we went over it earlier, so that was, pretty much it.
I do want to mention, technically I heard you first, but I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Oh,
The attachment, we can't open it up.
the map?
I don't, let me tell you which one it is. It's the first one. It's the first one.
Yeah. So the first one.
Yeah, when you click it, it won't let you open it.
I will send that out.
So we could talk about that later.
I'm sorry, I can see if I can, repost it here, but it's basically the updated meets and bounds survey of the area for the 6th, and the 7th. No, that's the map. The second one is the meets and bounds. That's the legal description of it. So let me
it's
see
the
if I
map
can get that.
The map they can't see.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
not open
okay.
on my end either. So let me see if we can get that.
Okay.
Okay, so, next, 7.1. Let me get this good out on it. The tri-jurisdiction.
I can speak on that. That was me asking about that. Those that attended the meeting, and I know McCarthy was online, but those that wasn't, and I heard, Councilman, Wright tonight, thank you for supporting that. I'm adamant about us not letting that go as a council, making sure that we do our due diligence to, even possibly try to get, an MOU written up, something that we can have for each municipality to do it, together in conjunction, so that we all can sign off on this and really get the ball rolling, not letting this drop off. This is something that's, and I just threw out the name 20743, coalition or whatever, but just to make sure, we all use the same zip code, whatever mail you receive at home, that is the zip code. So, I don't want that to fall off the radar. So I'm asking Ms. Ball to, speak with, Capitol Heights and Fremont Heights to get this going, so that we can get a resolution, MOU, something that we're gonna say, we're doing this. We're really gonna partner together, public safety, whatever we can, we need it. We all need to work together so that we can get some money on this end and partner together. The opioid situation, that was another one. That's one we can pull in there together, pull our resources together. I think it'll benefit the community as a whole, so.
Is there any information regarding the next meeting?
Not yet. They have been trying to get some dates, but we got some things going on within our city. They got things going on, and then everybody's be at MML.
Right.
So it's kind of a,
Sounds good.
that might
Not
work.
available.
We have to see, what their availability is, because we're still working with other partners in this situation, so. But I will definitely see if we can get that information.
Mr. President, if I may, I do want to shout out Ms. Higgs, who, after the meeting, did bring it to the senior staff and kind of updated us on this. I think it could be extremely beneficial to all of us. And I think that from a C Pleasant standpoint, we need to lead the way. And so I think that our partners, I talked to the state's attorney's office today, and they're hosting another, more Our Streets, Our Future event. And I told them, I said, hey, I believe they have a tri-county a jurisdictional thing going on with these 3 municipalities. Maybe you all can host, and maybe they can come and host up to all of them. I wanted them to get with Ms. Higgs on it. But thinking about those partnerships, I know that public safety definitely needs it. And it could be extremely beneficial, but I think it's not going to move unless C Pleasant leads the way. And so I think that we have the institution in place. I think that we have the structure to really just start moving it. Because I think when you start these things, a lot of people be like, well, where to start, things like that. But C Pleasant, it's just in our fashion, let's show them how to get it done, right? And so if that's Ms. Ball is taking on that task to kind of start that, working with them, I think that's great. But it's really important, and I do appreciate you all participating. I'm sorry I couldn't go to that Saturday meeting. I did want to, but it could be extremely beneficial to all of our departments in just multitude of different ways, even when we're talking about this Blue Line corridor stuff. And so we would love to tap into that as a partnership. Thank you.
I'm also a fan of this collaboration because when I was on the council previously, we met at the Fairmont Heights Library, and I really thought the ball was going to get rolling then, but I guess we met some opposition obstacles or something. But I'm really on board with this idea right now. I really, and you saying us taking the lead, yes, I think that's something we really should do for this collaboration.
I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else on this matter? Okay, approval of 7.2, approval of position descriptions.
Thank you, Mr. President. These job descriptions that you see listed are the positions that were added to our FY25 budget. So in accordance with policy, we have submitted those job descriptions for your review and approval. If you have the opportunity to look over, just let me know your thoughts. And if anything needs to be changed or corrected, please let me know.
Can we send these responses in the email?
Councilmember Bilbro wanted to know if we could send, I guess, our responses to you in the email? Or?
It's on the agenda for approval, but if there are recommendations that would possibly halt that, we can hold off if need be. It depends on the consensus of the council.
I'm ready to approve it. Oh, go ahead.
My only thing is, some of them, I want them to be consistent. Some of them say other duties as assigned, and some of them don't. I don't know if we were trying to move away from that for HR purposes or what, but I think other duties as assigned, specifically the staff assistant, that needs to be on there because there's no telling what may come up in that role. And so I think it's important that the other duties as assigned, obviously within reason, needs to be on there. It should be, but I'm advocating for us at this point.
They work here, everybody.
I think that's an easy adjustment that can be made.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is if they add that, as this is the discussion process, then you can move forward on it, you still want to wait.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll make a
with the
motion,
additions.
but, no shade to my colleague, but I'm ready.
I agree with doing that.
Okay, well, Mr. President,
Anybody will make a motion to approve these?
I move that we approve.
Go ahead.
I move that we approve the position descriptions with the added language of as other duties as assigned.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember McCarthy, second by Councilmember Love. Any questions? Mrs. Ball? No. Take your time. Thank you. Mr. Bilbro.
All right, ready? You got this. 8.1.
One Mississippi, two Mississippi, three Mississippi.
8.1 Ward 3 Beautiful Front Yard Competition. Best Yard Award from May 1st to October 1st, 2024. 8.2 Ward 4 Beautiful Front Yard Competition. Best Yard Award from June 1st to October 1st, 2024. 8.3 Ward 3 Meeting Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. Seat Pleasant City Hall, 3rd floor, 6301 Addison Road, Seat Pleasant, Maryland. 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. and then 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. 8.4 Public Session Monday, June 10th, 2024. Seat Pleasant City Hall, Council Chambers, 6301 Addison Road, Seat Pleasant, Maryland, 20743. I said that right. Hybrid and by Zoom video at 7 p.m. Meeting link details will be on the city's website. 8.5 MML Summer Conference, Ocean City, Maryland, from June 23rd, 26th, 2024. And finally, regular work session Monday, July 1st, 2024, Seat Pleasant City Hall, Council Chambers, 6301 Addison Road, Seat Pleasant, Maryland, at 6 p.m. Hybrid and by Zoom video at 6 p.m. Meeting link details will be on the city's website.
If there's not any other matter to be discussed, meeting's adjourned at, okay, remember what this one, 7:58.
Ms. Ball, can I see you for a second? Yes.
Thanks everyone for showing up.
Ms. Kearney,
Yes, ma'am.
I need another sheet.
Which one are we gonna use? That one? Just right here?
Today is
Not me.
the second.
What is it?
Just kind of a recap of today's meeting for the city.
Oh, I'll do it.
Huh?
Ain't you something?
See, what he does is after
No,
the meeting, there's gonna be a recap. Somebody recaps what went on at the meeting.
Can you make
And
me
it
a
only
copy
takes
of this,
about 30
please?
seconds to 1 minute.
I just need.
And I'll be happy to do that. Oh, okay. No problem.
Let the journalists do it.
Oh, okay.
Hey, act up again. Act up and grab
Just a- just a-
put you in timeout.
I know. What's today's date?
Now, this is my good side.
So we're looking at that camera. It's actually zoomed in on you.
Okay, and does
So you're
it
gonna-
have the whatchamacallit here?
This hers. You
No, not really. It's gonna be more
Okay,
focused.
no
We're
problem.
gonna be looking that way.
Okay.
And, I'm just gonna say.
I'm gonna get her on mine.
Councilmember at large Wright, can you please recap today's meeting for us?
Yes, we had a very productive meeting today. We had a briefing from Todd Pounds, a law firm who is helping us in terms of annexation in the local area. We talked about, our departments talked about the latest updates in terms of what they want to do in order to move the city forward, whether it's finance or our public safety or in public engagement. And we also decided that we're going to work harder together to get our our three cities together, which is Seat Pleasant, Capitol Heights, and Fairmont Heights. And we updated some positions in terms of descriptions.
Thank you so much, and we will see everybody at the next council